All right. Good afternoon. My name is Jordan Owens, and I'm the Director of Cabinet Communications with the Government of Yukon, and I'll be moderating today's press conference. We do have a hard stop at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, so we'll try to keep these introductions short so that we can get to all of your questions. We'll start with brief remarks from the Premier before turning it over to Grand Chief Johnston, and then over to the media for their questions. We'll have time for one question and one follow-up from media in the room and over Zoom. And if time permits, we'll go back so that folks can have additional questions asked. And with that, I will turn it over to the Premier.
Thank you, Jordan. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm pleased to be joining you on the traditional unceded territory of the Anishinaabe Algonquin Nation. The ministers and I appreciate the opportunity to meet collectively with federal ministers and Yukon First Nations chiefs at this Intergovernmental Forum in Ottawa. 50 years ago, in 1973, Yukon First Nation chiefs came to Ottawa to present their groundbreaking document, Together Today for Our Children Tomorrow, to the federal government. It was a statement of grievances and proposed solutions to address the inequality that Yukon First Nations were facing. The approach was accepted by the federal government and became the framework for the negotiation of Yukon's modern treaties. Today, 50 years later, Yukon leaders are in Ottawa standing shoulder to shoulder as governments discussing the implementation of these modern treaties. The Intergovernmental Forum is intended to be a regular meeting between the leaders of the Government of Yukon, the Government of Canada, and Yukon First Nations to discuss our shared priorities and the implementation of Yukon's modern treaties. However, this is the first intergovernmental forum we have held in Ottawa. Pairing this important event with the annual Yukon Days initiative, where Yukon First Nations and the Yukon government leads to bring trilateral conversations to Canada's Parliament, is a natural fit. It demonstrates the distance that we have come and the aspirations that we share to continue down this path of reconciliation. Yukon leaders have come to Ottawa to commemorate the milestone of 50 years since Together Today for Our Children Tomorrow. Bringing our respective governments together to discuss shared priorities and to find solutions for our collective issues is vital to the Yukon's long-term success. To enhance the lives of Yukoners and the territory's environmental, economic, and social prosperity. Our tripartite collaboration is critical in implementing Yukon's modern treaties. Today, we discussed a number of important issues, including community wellness, housing, and the substance use health emergency that we are facing in our communities. We are pleased to say that we have agreed to further explore our partnership in the development of a Yukon First Nations-led healing center. We also discussed justice matters, including community policing, community safety officer programs, and implementation of the Yukon's final and self-government agreements through the negotiation of administration of justice agreements. We had the opportunity to talk about land use planning, emergency preparedness, and declining salmon stock. Finally, we had an important conversation about the importance of language and cultural revitalization. It is through meetings like this that we are working together to ensure the federal programs and services meet the unique needs of Yukoners and continue to advance reconciliation in the Yukon's modern treaty context. We had productive conversations and again look forward to our continued work together on these issues. Thank you, and over to you, Grand Chief.
Chief Premier, thank you very much for this opportunity. And first and foremost, I'd just like to congratulate and honor our former respective chiefs, our negotiators, our elders, and our communities for the foresight to not only undertake such a bold effort to change our future for the betterment of not only our future generations, but equally as important for our citizens of today. And to have this opportunity to be here with the Yukon government led by our Premier, let alone to have the opportunity to bring my children who are descendants of my father, obviously Sam Johnston, who is a chief, but also a signatory to the Together Today for Our Children Tomorrow. It provides me as an individual many significant just checking the boxes, if you will, when it comes to not only where we've come as a people, but equally as important, how important it is for us to not only have our voice here today in Ottawa, let alone be able to join the respective government and to do it from a Yukon approach, which I think is, we are models for the country in regards to how we can develop not only mutual interest through good dialogue, but also to ensure that, the respective communities have a voice here as well when it comes to things, as the Premier has mentioned, emergency preparedness. As you know, our territory was hit in many different ways, not only from an opioid crisis, but also from wildfires and flooding, let alone with COVID. So there's a lot of great examples where we've come together not only to support the territory, but also to help each individual as Yukoners have the best opportunities provided to them. And this week is going to not only show the rest of the world how it can be done, but also is going to provide, like I mentioned, meaningful discussion to the respective ministers that hold the portfolios that require us not only to have that dialogue, but they can advocate for us when it comes to budgetary times such as that we are in now. So with that, I just want to say, Glenn Chief, for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ranj Chief. Thank you, Premier. We'll now turn it over to media. If there are media in the room or on the line with questions, I'd ask that you just please put your hand up to those of you who are on Zoom, and we'll try to accommodate everyone to the best of our ability. Don't all put your hands up at once.
Yeah.
We see a question from CBC.
Hello. So this question is for Peter Jackson. Can you hear me?
Peter Johnston.
Oh, sorry, Peter Johnson. I understand in October you sent a letter to the Premier calling for an immediate action on the state of emergency in Mayo and suggested an action plan be developed in collaboration with the Yukon government, RCMP, the Village of Mayo, and the First Nation. Can you share an update on this issue with us today?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Thank you. I can start by maybe sharing some of the conversation today. I think the community of Mayo, and we did receive a letter from the Grand Chief, but I think it's important to touch on the fact that we're in constant dialogue. As partners, we've continued to work through the Yukon Forum, and that's again today we had one of our Yukon Forum sessions. So that happens every 3 months, and we've done that since 2016. Part of what we've been doing is putting together a substance use health emergency strategy, and that's some of the work that, of course, we would be using to support the community of Mayo. So some of the work that's been done right now is we're making progress on about 14 different actions that are supporting not just the community of Mayo, but all of our communities in the Yukon. On November 15th, as well, the Yukon government and the Council of Yukon First Nations announced $9 million working together on a land-based healing fund. This is monies that will be available to the community of Mayo. And again, this is a strategy that we're launching to support trauma, grief, and loss. And again, doing it within an absolute First Nations concept. We've also been expanding on our sexualized assault response team. Again, we've added capacity to our mobile crisis response team as well, and making sure that we have access for opioid treatment services. So not only the services that are available in the Yukon, but the Yukon government and specifically the Department of Health and Social Services has been ensuring that we use treatment infrastructure both in Alberta and British Columbia. So if we have maxed out the supports that we can provide in the Yukon, we're also making sure that we fund the opportunities for individuals from across the Yukon. So of course that would include individuals from Mayo. And again, we're looking at increasing operating hours at Whitehorse supervised consumption sites. So there's a number of things we're doing and we'll continue to do with the community of Mayo and all our communities in the Yukon.
I recently co-hosted a Chiefs and Mayors Forum. As a former chief of the Teslin Council, I understand the value of having that great relationship with the municipality, especially when it comes to our communities. So I co-hosted with the Association of Yukon Communities to host the event. And one of the priorities out of that meeting was to help support Mayo. And as the Premier has mentioned, you know, I'm happy to see that they have now released some money, which will be helping support as well as a council to ensure that our communities are getting immediate resources there, and the community, the nations can utilize that funding for whatever they seem fit at this time. And I think it's really up to the nations on how they want to see not only support for the communities with people with addictions, but also to help alleviate some of the, you know, the pressure we feel right now just based on, you know, losing people on almost on a monthly basis here in the territory. So I think, you know, as the Premier has mentioned, we are obviously working together. It helps alleviate that problem, but the resources are never enough. And we are also advocating here in Ottawa that, you know, the North is obviously the demographics, let alone the state of our communities. We are at a very much higher risk as compared to other Canadians. So we are also advocating here for proper resources to ensure that our citizens have the support, but also have the opportunities to seek the proper help if needed. So thank you.
Just, I'll also like that. I just want to thank Minister Hadju, who wasn't available to be with us this afternoon, but was with us this morning. And we were happy at the Yukon government to support the model that's come forward by the Council of Yukon First Nations. I want to thank Grand Chief for your leadership on looking at a new center, a First Nations-led detox and treatment center in Whitehorse. So we had an opportunity today to sign the first step agreement between Minister Hadju, the Yukon government, and the Council of Yukon First Nations. And this is really going to be a really significant piece of infrastructure for the Yukon. It's something that decades in the making. And I know that the Yukon government was happy to be part of that first step today. And I would thank the leadership of the federal government. And so we look forward to them putting the proper resources behind this so we can get a center of this type built in Whitehorse.
CBC, did you have a follow-up? Okay, I see Mark Page has his hand up. We've got about 10 more minutes just for everyone's awareness.
Yes, this question is for Grand Chief Peter Johnston. What is on the top of your list of issues to try to make progress on this week?
Well, we have identified a few issues, and I think one of the biggest pressing issues is just always the implementation of our agreements, which encompasses all the priorities that we've brought forward to today. Is that if we could be properly funded, and we've advocated for this ever since 1995 to be fully funded as governments. Unfortunately, we've never come to that completion where some of the nations are still dealing with about 40% of their government needed funding comes from contribution agreements. And so I think the biggest priority we want to deal with when we come to these meetings, especially from a bilateral, let alone a trilateral perspective, is that we need the implementation of our agreements. We need to have not only financial capacity to run these programs, but to ensure that when we talk about bigger priorities, that we as First Nations are leading the discussion when it comes to our people. And I think that, you know, our governments understand that, we respect that, and we're advocating from that perspective. So, which includes like land use planning, which I think is one of the most important pillars to our agreements, which not only gives us economic certainty, but it gives us, you know, environmental certainty, let alone certainty to us as territory, let alone investors and other, you know, opportunities that we have as a territory. So I'm going to say just the implementation of our agreements is probably the highest priority for all the nations here. Thank you.
Mark, did you have a follow-up?
Sure. A slightly different topic. You know, we've heard a lot in the last few months about, you know, community safety in downtown Whitehorse, and the implementation of a CYFN-led community safety patrol, similar to the Bear Clan patrol. Could you just give us an update on how that's going, how those efforts are going so far?
Yeah, we're just putting it into obviously into putting the wheels on the bus, but unfortunately, one of the things that we're waiting for is a van to be able to deliver the program, and we're looking into the new year when it comes to that, unfortunately, but you know, it's something that we see the value in. I appreciate the Premier as well, seeing the value in having, you know, a First Nation-led support program. It's not only to help alleviate some of the concerns that the RCMP have or other enforcement agencies, but it's also to give, you know, I think our clients that are in the downtown reality, you know, a sense of security as well, because when they see their own people and a reflection of themselves and the support that they're receiving, I think there's going to be not only success from that perspective, but also the fact that, you know, we may be able to alleviate some people through their tough journey in life. And I think when, like I said, that a lot of our people are feeling the sense of hopelessness and less value based on, you know, 155 years of government policy, let alone, you know, 200 years of our reality in the territory when it comes to enfranchisement and the residential school and the Indian Act and all the things that our people have been struggling with for, you know, during that period of time. I think these are opportunities that will, you know, allows us to move ahead. So I think the more, as I mentioned in the previous discussion, is the more that we see ourselves leading it for our people, you know, regardless of the reality, the success will come with that. And, you know, prevention is 100% of what we want to achieve as well. So language, culture, building that self-worthiness back to our next generations, let alone the opportunities for us to invest in our next generation versus taken away, I think is the possibilities are, you know, are positive, but also endless. Thank you. Jeez.
Thank you. I see a hand from Stuart from Shone.
Good afternoon. Thank you. The Premier mentioned earlier a First Nations Healing Center. I was just interested in what form that's going to take.
Well, we just signed the letter of intent today. We did discuss this as well at our last leadership meeting last week. And it's not only going to take some of the strain from the downtown, and we always refer to our clients downtown, but this will also allow us to have 6 immediate beds for people that are willing to take that opportunity to find sobriety or to deal with their addictions, if you will. It'll also provide us with over 20 long-term beds, which, as we're well aware, that housing is an issue in the downtown, and the people that are struggling in the downtown reality as our clients, majority of them are homeless. And when we're able to provide, you know, not only immediate support for people that are in crisis mode, but also a long-term perspective, which is going to provide, as I mentioned, 20 plus beds for over people that could stay there for at least 2 years. It allows us now to have not only wraparound services, maybe through education, through the justice system, whatever it means, and through the health system as well. But it allows us now to not only plan, but also give us that ability to alleviate some of the pressures we feel in the downtown. And it's sad to see, you know, the younger generation, a lot of women are caught in that reality. And I think the more that we can offer not only supports to our people, through good partnerships and relationships, but also with the intent to help and to move our people from, you know, like, as I mentioned, archaic policies that are not supporting, you know, our reality, but also, you know, forcing us into situations that are, you know, that are not meant for us, if you will. So I think, you know, the commitment from government, the long-term to help not only finance this, but also to give us the ability to provide a healing center to our own people on behalf of our people, just provides another option, which I think is the most important aspect of this whole conversation, that we allow options for our people to find their place. So it's a great day for us as Yukon First Nations.
Stuart, did you have a follow-up?
No follow-up. Thank you very much.
All right. We have time for one final question. If there's anyone on the line who would like to take advantage of that. Going once, going twice. Thank you so much to everyone for attending today's press conference. If there are any follow-up questions, please feel free to email me at jordan.owens@yukon.ca. Thank you.